Tell me when we're live.
Now live.
We're live already?
There's tape over the camera. How did we get in that?
Hey, this is Brooke with Printrbot.com and a cell phone. And Dave's here too. Our internet is out. You will be hearing me say that multiple times today, because it's hard to stream a live show when the internet is out. At least it's hard to do it like we used to do it. So you get one camera angle and one camera angle only. And you don't get mics. Not that you liked our mic solution before. Some people don't. But I am here. I missed last week. So the pre-show is actually during the show starting late, which is a little different, but I'm building something here. How big is this? How much can they see? Can they see the table, or do I need to hold stuff up?
No, they can see the table.
Okay.
Your laptop's the corner.
Over here? Here?
And about here.
So stay in this area? Mm-hmm. The edge of the laptop over here?
The very edge of the laptop screen.
All right, so welcome everyone. Brooke with Printrbot. Let me start over. Welcome everyone. It's Brooke from Printrbot, Printrbot.com. We're on Facebook Live, and we post this to Vimeo and YouTube, other places, when we're done. We missed last week, and I'll tell you why in just a second, but for the meantime, you get to watch me put the first Adopt-A-Bot Smalls parts together, and I'll show you the two that we've got printed. We're still designing some of the other parts, but we should be done tomorrow. I was going to show you a nice drawing, but since we don't have internet, that's not going to work. So we're on my cell phone. So anyway, I'm going to sit here. Dave, were you able to see if anybody's online, or am I just talking to the wall? Okay. So there's a few guys online. Now's a perfect time while I'm fiddling around here. If you have questions, probably like, where have you been? What are you doing? Where is my Adopt-A-Bot? I'm not answering those right now. Your Adopt-A-Bot files are about to be published. I'm hoping to get them published before I leave for the weekend tomorrow. Of course, I never really leave for the weekend. I work during the weekend sometimes. But can y'all at least tell me if you can hear me okay and how awful the picture is? Maybe this is just as good as it's ever been. Can you see it yourself?
Yeah, during the live stream it looks good. Like if you download a video of it later, it'll be grainy.
Really? Okay. All right. Well, we'll make do as best we can this week. So it's a short week because it's Labor Day, right?
Yep.
So that made it hard to get everything done in the first place. By the way, I'm starting to tell you why I wasn't here last week. And I'm not making excuses, I'm just telling you why. So last week we had a short week, so that always hurts. But man, let me tell you, it hurt especially because we were preparing. Our water jet broke 2 more times, but they were small breaks. The first thing that broke was we put some new metal down on the water jet, and the tip, you raise it up to give yourself room to slide in the metal. And the cutting head, we went to move it down, and it went like this. It didn't go down at all. So you got to get it down like really close to the bed that you're cutting, and it would not go down. So the reason is, I feel like I'm yelling. Do I need to talk loud for this?
The comment is audio, video, not bad at all.
Oh, great. Well, thank you, Apple. iPhone, what do I have, 7? Anyway, so the head wouldn't go down, so we had to order some Opto 22, they're like optical end stops, And you know, normally if you're doing a 3D printer, those would just be a few dollars. But if you're Flow, I hope they're not watching, you charge about 20 times what they're worth. And so we paid dearly for every one, and I ordered some extras too. And then I found a whole bunch of other ones that I already had and didn't need to order, so I felt like an idiot. But anyway, that was an easy fix. Installed that in stop, and you could go down to cut, so we started cutting. And then there's something called a whip, you know, from the, what am I doing? From the pump, which is, I think it's somewhere around 45 to 55,000 PSI, that's coming through this little copper, or not copper, it's probably stainless steel, little water hose. We call it a whip. And it comes from the back of the machine forward. And then on top of the cutting head, there's a smaller little tube that connects down to the cutting head. That thing started to leak. And you can't tell where the leak is from because it's wrapped in this covering. But Mark was noticing, oh, it's dripping. Oh, it's dripping worse. It's really dripping. It is really, really leaking. And so we couldn't get the pressure to cut anymore. So I peeled back that housing and I said, turn on the water jet and let me see where the leak is coming from. To see 55,000 pounds or 45,000 PSI of, when you get a hairpin leak in that tube. I mean, it was, I couldn't even see it. It was so small that it was like a needle prick. And when he turned that thing on, you saw that, oh my gosh. So we had to order a whole new little whip thing, water hose for the end. That's all it was. And again, you could probably order this stuff off of McMaster Car if you had the fittings and how to get the fittings. It is so freaking expensive. So anyway, several $100s later, our water jet is cutting. So anyway, that's not even why we didn't cut last week. Really, we were just swamped with work to get our prosthetic printers finished. I'll show you one. And I know you might not be able to see all of it. But we were making these in-house to try to get through. How bad is it? Can you see it at all?
No, you can't see all things.
We were making these in-house, and let me tell you, that's painful. But this is done at Microform Precision. They're in Sacramento. You should use them. But they do a wonderful job. And so our prosthetic printer here, I can't really show you inside, although I can open this. So it's got a little magnetic, like that. Oops, I don't like hurting it. So, yeah, I think there's comedy about to ensue if I drop this. Anyway, so it's got a 14-inch build Z, and we're going to do a smaller version of this that'll be about 12. Different reasons, but it'll be a little smaller. But for the prosthetic, it's Creato and P. They're up in New Jersey or New York, I forget, Lake Placid. Anyway, so we've got, it's not XY core, or core XY, it's just Cartesian. So the motor's hanging over there and it's going on X. But I use this system which loops the belt around for Y. And there it goes. All metal cases do resonate a little bit. So that's what you're hearing. It's smooth, it's just a little bit, you can hear it. We've got an E-chain coming across here, and we've got the Ubis HF hot in there. So I did, by the way, a couple things that you might recognize. One is, we've tried all kinds of things. Raspberry Pi with a touch screen. We tried the G2 in this for a while, but he absolutely wanted an LCD screen, so we had to drop back to the printer board. But anyway, so we've got the LCD panel with the, I don't think the knob's on there yet. But this is going to prosthetic, what do you call them? Prosthetic and orthopedic offices, the people that fit the legs and arms and hands, whatever. Specifically, this is 14 inches to do legs. And it does not everything for the leg, but these are like used in the real world. So there's like a standardized, like metal. It's all pretty crazy. There's a metal post kind of a thing that goes into the socket, And then on top of that socket, you can have this 3D printed thing that fits to their leg. So they actually scan the leg, and then in this crazy touchscreen thing, they like smooth it out. And so once it's scanned and smooth, they'll do the processing, and then the people with these printers get a file. So we're putting a SD card in back here, a full-size SD card. And we've got LEDs in here, so the couple power supplies right now. It will have a Raspberry Pi running Octoprint. It's optional if people want to use that, but we're shipping it with them. So something like this will ship from Printrbot soon, just be a little smaller and different options. But I wanted to tell you one quick story. So Carl came in. Let me get this off the table. I forget how much it weighs, but it is. Oh, it is aluminum, so it's not as bad as you think. When we made one out of steel, it was really heavy. But Carl was in here, so he was here to pick up some of my junk, which I'll tell you about in a second. Treasure, as he would call it. But anyway, so Carl's here, and he's talking to Jeff, and Jeff was like, oh yeah, I got that 3mm Ubis hot end that you sent. We made a couple of 3mm because he's trying to push flexible plastics through, because he does both flexibles, and then he uses a lot of this stuff, PETG, and instead of, like PLA would be ridiculous, but PETG prints at 245 on that thing, and he does a lot of spiral vase stuff. So how is a spiral vase strong enough for a prosthetic limb that's carrying the whole weight of the body? Well, he prints a spiral vase, and he uses, right now he's using a 0.6 tip and 1.75 filament, but with the HF, you can mash it through there very, very quickly. So he's using a couple of tricks where he over extrudes, where there's too much filament coming out, but when it comes out of the tip, you'd think it would just go blah and go wide. Well, it only goes so wide because it's moving, and he has that over extrusion like 2.4 something over. So he's pushing way too much plastic. So on a 0.6 tip, he's getting a very wide wall, and he's doing, I think, 0.2 or 3 layer height. So it's a lot of filament coming out, spreading very wide and going around. So you end up with this thick wall, and it is incredibly strong. Well, he wanted to see, would a 3mm nozzle go faster, and what benefits, and can it be wider and stronger? So he brought back the 0.3, and he says, I've already used some 2mm tips, which when you think about it is strange, because you shouldn't be able to do more than 1.75 millimeters, right? Well, wrong, actually. You can go bigger, because when you're extruding, you just need a little pressure. Like if you just stuck it up in the air and it heated up, yeah, you'd get this terrible ooze. It would pull out anything molten. Just gravity, it's the law, would pull out all the filament. But when you're printing and moving around, there's pressure that builds up in the end. So he asked, can I do a 3mm tip on a 1.75 filament feed? And so Carl went back to his house and he made one, and it's got a really stubby nose because 3mm of the tip is, there's not a lot more material there to do that with. This is a Ubis 13S, but that's a small tip, and so he drilled out this 3mm hole, and I think he drilled it out all the way through, which leaves the wall a little thinner. But anyway, so they messed with it, and I was over here working. I was in a bad mood because I was like behind. I was here all weekend finishing these printers so he could leave for this show in Vegas. And I'm over here working, like assembling these 5 printers that we're getting. Oh, he took 3, we're shipping 2. But anyway, so they're over there playing, and they start laughing, and they're like, look at this, look. They extruded, I think it was almost 6mm wide wall in a spiral vase print in one pass. And I mean, this filament was going through there so fast to supply enough plastic to spread out 6mm on a 0.2 or 3 layer height. And so anyway, they stopped it, and because they wanted to see how strong it was. So they brought it over to me, and this, at first it was weird because that PETG that I was just testing this, I don't carry it yet. This is PETGY. I don't know who that's from. But anyway, yellow, I guess, is the Y. It was almost transparent, which is pretty neat. It got me interested in this filament. I know a lot of people use it instead of ABS, but this stuff is strong. I stood on that part. It was a cup, because, you know, a prosthetic would cup the leg and then go up the leg, and it's a really weird shape around the leg. I stood on it sideways, and I couldn't get it to even feel like it was bending. You know, like if you stepped on a plastic cup, it would, like, you know, depending on how strong it was, you'd feel it give. I couldn't feel it give at all. So Carl, who's huge, no, he's 210. I'm more like 180. So Carl's like, well, let me try it. He gets on it. He starts jumping up and down on that thing on the side, and it didn't even budge. It was not misshapen at all. I don't know how to do I mean, I guess I could have put 400 pounds of weight. I almost jumped up into Carl's arms, but all I know is that printer can print a lot of filament very fast, and that's why he ordered it. So that's why I was so stressed out to get those, because he had a hard deadline of the show. So that was very busy alone. Water jet breaking alone. Last story, I have mentioned that we are right-sizing. Some would call it downsizing, but we lost a couple of employees. One was intentional. Anyway, but we miss him, we love him. But another one went on, a good friend of mine went on to take another job. So we were down by 2. So we not only had too many employees, we actually had too much space. And so I had about 12,000 square foot of space, and my landlord, I mentioned this a couple weeks ago, my landlord said, well, hey, we need that space. Can you give up any of it? And the answer was, yeah. I didn't know how much. So when I started stripping away all of my junk that I had, and you accumulate stuff over time when you're in business. I've talked to other business owners that are in a similar situation. Just today I talked to Philbot, and he was saying, yeah, you accumulate. But I wanted to know, what do we need only for production? So I started to do that, and it was clear after I started to talk to the landlord through my CFO, that I thought I could cut back a little bit. We could actually cut back by more than half. Yes, I have a lot of junk. So I got, how big is that dumpster, man? It's freaking huge. We filled one, now the second one's here, and it's full again. And there's still stuff on the yard back there. So anyway, without impacting business, except for our shop is a wreck right now because I threw away, mainly it was like construction stuff. I had a bunch of boxes that we don't sell this model of that, like the old Go boxes, we didn't need those. Although we might have hung on to that, didn't we?
I don't think so.
No, we got rid of those. So when you go through and start to see what you don't need anymore, it is shocking, and that's going to save me thousands every month. So I had a hard deadline to get that done, and I worked my tail off to get that done very hard, and the rest of the guys did too. So that was a nightmare to get that done. So now, oh, I can't show you. I had a picture on my phone that I wanted to show you. My phone is right there.
We'll put it on Facebook.
Anyway, yeah, we can show you a picture of the empty space, and then just like this wall of like foam, and our racks. I didn't give up one single rack. They've never been more full because we only, sprawl just happens. And these racks, you know, would have something on it this tall when you got like that much to fill. So now we're much tighter, but we still have a lot of space to work. It's just that I ruined the lights in half the shop. So when we take a picture, it'll have to be in the morning because I still haven't fixed the lights. So anyway, it was a nightmare last week. So that's why that's why I just was silent. I was trying to make my deadline to get out of that space, and thumbs up, I passed the inspection. I get my deposits back. We're in a much smaller space, but it is still, it's going to be very comfortable. It's great. So anyway, that's why I was gone. Now, so Adopt-A-Bot, printer belt, what's going on? So the printer belt's easy because it's right there, and it's the same one that I've had on the table several times. Bill helped us. Finally, we're running it on the Pi. I don't have it printing today, but we're going to be running some insoles for our prosthetic guy, because he was here and was like, we could do insoles on that, like custom insoles in flexible material. And I was like, yeah, you can do a lot of them, just keep them running off. And he's like, okay, awesome. So we're gonna shoot some video this week of that. And then the model is ready next week, because I'm doing this tomorrow, this Adopt-A-Bot. I got to finish this. But we're ready to start cutting finally. And with the working water jet, who'd have thunk? We can actually build something now. And then the production models will all be at Microform, because I'm not shipping one that I make. After seeing the comparison side by side of here's what we make in our shop, pretty good. From about 4 foot out, it's identical. When you get into about 6 inches, you can see some of our folds, and the tolerances that we can hold are not as good as the awesome tolerances that they hold. So I can't ship a Printrbot unless it's awesome, built, at least laser cut, folded, powder coated at Microform. So you're waiting for next week. So I've been saying, oh yeah, next week, you're gonna see it next week. I'm a liar. Oh, there's a soundbite for you. My wife would say, no, you're an optimist at certain things, but only business, because sometimes I can be a pessimist too. So anyway, realist is probably where I land. But next week, it is like it bugs me so much that I haven't got more done on that, trust me. Not dragging my feet, just trying to do the things in the priority they ought to be done. So it's coming. But I can talk about Adopt-A-Bot. Today, we have finally got some movement. We have a website. We have a domain name. By the way, the website's just like get on Squarespace and do a Squarespace, pretty good company. They're not paying me. But it's a really, really easy way to manage a website. It's just an informational website right now. And there's only like, a couple paragraphs. And it's like the stock template. But we do have a website, and we're going to put the content on there and take it off of Printrbot.com so it's in its proper place. Adoptabot.org. And right now I think it's just a placeholder with some water in the background. It takes a while when you get a domain name for that to propagate. So, but I was pretty happy we got Adoptabot, all one word, .org. And so now that we have that, we can fill it, send all, well, we got to get email, which we'll probably use Google Mail. But anyway, so we're getting these things in place. Haven't done the nonprofit thing yet, because I want to see if the response is as good as I think it will be. So, but we had 100 and, who knows, we had 100 and some, 180, 190, close to 200 people sign up between the initial and the second round of signups. The first one was just like, who's interested in this? And a bunch of people were like, yeah. But then I got to thinking, I need to put these people to work, so I got a little plan together. And I had to ask you to find your seat. So if you were to go to Printrbot.com/Adoptabot right now, you just see the video of me explaining it, and you got to pick your seat. So that has happened. And now, my admin, we started earlier today and sent some emails out to different groups, but we got to finish tonight. She said she's going to have them all sent. It's a short email that basically says, to the people that said, okay, I'll serve in this group, we asked you guys to find your seat. Where do you belong? Now, by the way, a couple of things on this. People said, well, I want to do both. I want to do this and I want to do that. Well, that's fine. But first, we got to get a structure and an organization together that works by itself without Brooke getting in the way. Is frankly I don't want to be the what's it called? The choke, the bottleneck. So the first thing we've asked in the emails to the groups, we've shared the email addresses with only the group, and we have said, talk amongst yourselves, and number one, find a leader. Now, this leader, there may be 8 people that don't want to lead in a group, or there may be 6 people that do want to lead in a group. That's not up to me. I'm not picking. I'm picking the people that are going to lead from a high-level organizational thing. I need help in my areas that I am weak, like finances, but I just don't like dealing with the money. So I'm asking for help specifically for the high level. But for the boots on the ground, you folks in the community that are going to serve, you will figure out who's going to lead. Now, who's going to lead and what does that mean in your group? Here's the commitment. Through December 31st, just the end of this year, we'll probably only have started, not very long before that, shipping, but we'll have a chance to make and deliver to some schools before Christmas. So it's the beginning, so it's going to be slower. It's for a finite period of time, from now until Christmas. And at that point, if it's all going well, you can stay on, and we could all talk about what these terms of service are. But They can just, for now, it's just whoever's serving. If you need to ask somebody else to lead, fine. But sometimes you find out, wait, I got into something that I thought I was going to be able to do and can't. It'll be fine to bow out at any time and hand that baton off to somebody else. It's a very low commitment. We want success. We want people to get along. We do want leaders that maybe have skill in managing a group of people, which is no easy task. That takes a talent, or at least it takes patience. Because there'll be, some of you guys are going to be herding cats for a while in emails and like figuring out, what are we doing? So the first thing is just choose a leader that will commit to December 31st. And the second thing that each group needs to tell me is, okay, who's ready to work and where do I send the stuff? Because pretty much it's going to be Printrbot donating a bunch of stuff, and I need a group of wires to go here. I've got a lot of boards that I can donate to the electronics group. There were some groups that just want to build, some want to buy, some don't. Some groups that just want to build and support. So that will be just a little bit of a wait until we verify this model is good enough to work and be printable and everything's good with the model. And instead of actually saying, yeah, send me work, you're gonna have to wait until it's either ready to purchase or it's ready to, if you're a printer, ready to print. But you can tell us this. So a lot of people are like, yeah, I'm a school, I want to get involved. Yeah, I want to build and support. Yeah, I want to buy and just provide to schools. So I did ask those groups, for some it's an address. Tell me the address to send the stuff. But for others, it will be, you tell me what schools that you're targeting. Now, not schools specifically. Now, my kids go to Lincoln High School. Well, not Lincoln High School yet. That was last year. Gems Middle School. You don't have to name the school. You can if you want. But I figured just, so we don't have to, it doesn't matter that in Lincoln there's a school that's, over there. So we're just going to name the city. So the city that's going to positively be affected by us, the recipient of a printer. We're going to put those on a map. So I think on the informational website, it'll be cool to see places pop up with Adopt-A-Bots. Now, those might even be people that just saw the model, got their own stuff, or ordered a kit from us or whatever. By us, I mean Adopt-A-Bot. And did it all on their own. I just want to know where these bots are and how we're making an impact in the world. And with this model, it'll be easy, I think, easier than ever to build a printer. It's a little bitty rep wrap, essentially. So anyway, you're getting your marching orders tonight. Choose a leader, and where do I send the stuff? For some people, like, let me talk about filament for a moment, and then I'll shut up about these groups, because you're getting the email. Filament. So I have a new vision. Dave's like, uh-oh. Okay, so Dave hasn't heard this either. Well, I talked on the phone because I'm getting very excited about what we can accomplish here together. And again, that's the key. First and foremost, Adopt-A-Bot, and frankly, Printrbot, any company, the value of the company is the people involved. So it's you, the community members, and all the people that we're emailing today that I feel very warmly for volunteering their time and energy and talents. So those people involved in schools is really the big deal. Yeah, printers, schminners, right? Soundbite. It could be robots. It could be, sports program. If there's people involved at school, parents involved in school, community members involved in school, that's really what I value. Just so happens my passion is 3D printing here, some CNC stuff too, but you guys are going to cross a passion with a need for kids to learn about manufacturing, design, math, science, art. So the people are the really, really important thing. Totally lost my train of thought. Where was I going?
Well.
Oh, I know what it was. But beyond just helping these kids, adults, community members in these clubs and schools and the places, the people that are going to be affected, there's also some problems with 3D printing that I think we can begin to explore and help fix. And here's one. I have a lot of parts that fail It's not even exactly fail, but like for instance, I printed this. It did two things. One, the stupid filament spool got stuck, and so at this one layer it was very light. So anyway, I printed this thing, and this is plastic. This has value, not a lot of value, but it has value. But what do you do with this when you have prints that fail? You recycle, right? Wrong, because how do you recycle? So I got to thinking about that. Also, you could have filament that's just unused. You don't want it anymore. It's a little sliver on a spool, and you don't want to start a print because you'll run out of filament. It could also be people that have plastic around the house, that like water bottles. Well, wouldn't we like to recycle those for use in 3D printing? Sounds hard, right? Well, it is, and it's been a while since this kind of phenomena of 3D printing has happened in the US and the world, 3D printers on your desktop. And back before, I think it was before, right around when I did my Kickstarter, Tyler McNaney, I'm probably saying your name wrong, I always forget, but Tyler at Philibot, we met each other early on, and he was before me because he did this thing. I heard about Kickstarter. Tyler, you're going to kill me for telling this story. But Tyler said, yeah, 3D printing's a thing, so what can I do? Well, why don't I make a filament extruder? To my knowledge, he'd never built anything in his life, and was just like blue sky, like this sounds awesome, we're going to save the planet. And recycling is a great cause, so let's be better stewards of our environment and our resources. So he whiteboarded the thing and shot a video, and boom, it funded. And then he was like, oh crap, I don't know how to build this thing. So he's thankfully still alive. He's making extruders. He's been doing it for as long as I've been doing it. And we've talked all along the way. But he has the Philextruder, and it's a filament extruder. He takes pellets. And then over the years, he's figured out how to do recycling. So he wants to work with the Adopt-A-Bot program in several ways. And these are ideas not in stone yet. Number one, he can recycle filament, or parts, I should say. So he is also working on recycling other materials in his shop. Don't send him your plastic trash yet. But he sells pellets. He has extruders that use pellets. He is recycling his own stuff. What's that mean?
Your battery's getting low.
Oh, okay. So I got to be quick. My battery's almost out. I had 42% when we started.
Yeah.
What was it at? Like 1?
It's at 20%. I just put you on low power mode.
Okay.
So, but since
All
you're
right.
streaming video, it's probably...
Yeah. We're hogging it. All right. Well, anyway, he can recycle, so we're going to look at a recycling program. And he has access to really cheap recycled material. Funny enough, it's a company that has a bunch of MakerBots, and he gets hundreds of pounds of failed prints. I love that. Anyway, I probably wasn't supposed to say that. But anyway, so he mixes all the colors together, he ends up with gray, and so he can make filament from recycled parts. And here's the vision. I would like someday for the Adopt-A-Bot program to function only on 100% recycled plastic, whether that's from failed prints or recycled other goods. We can have these extruders, and he has a customer base that has them, so we can tap that. We can use people that already have one. Doesn't have to be a Philextruder, but it's a community of people that can share knowledge. It's just like all of us 3D printer geeks. Some have Printrbot, some don't. We share. So if we can move forward with this vision, and maybe enable that, maybe they can think about that using recycled material as well. But I would love to be 100% recycled, 100% made in the USA, 100% not just funded, but powered by community. And so, yes, the vision of Adopt-A-Bot right now is to get 3D printers and other robot machines into schools. Yes, at a lower price. This little bitty printer isn't going to meet every need, but it's a cheap way to get kids interested and get teachers educated, and then you can graduate to whatever bot you want. But imagine doing it with 100% recycled filament. And with Tyler, I think we can do that cheaper than it currently costs to use recycled material. My friend that has a injection molding plant, I asked him, hey, you do recycled materials? He's like, oh yeah, very popular. I was like, oh yeah, does it save a lot of money? Oh no, it costs more. Because they have to process it multiple times, right? Somebody else had to break that down into pellets to send it to him so that he can say recycled. Well, if we do it ourselves and use the sweat equity, we'll be able to do it. So we'll talk more about that later. I don't want to take all the time on recycling. But here's the first couple of printed parts for the Adopt-A-Bot. This is the Y. Now I want to compare this to the smalls. Now originally, and even a couple weeks ago, I had a wild hair that, man, I got all these parts, we should use these parts. Well, after I made this, it was like, yeah, it works great. Then I thought, well, that weighs like 4 times as much. I don't want it to weigh that much. And I don't necessarily want it to be this tall because the rest of the bot's tiny and it would be top heavy. So another lie from Brooke. By the way, these plans, because it's 100%, it's not 100%, because the frame of this is going to be 100% printed. Like right now we have metal parts here, big metal part there, big metal part on the bottom. Of course the bed's going to have to be metal. There's several metal parts in here, all flat, cut metal. Well, we're not going to be able to do that. So in comparison, like even though this goes 4 inches, you've got an extra 2 inches we gave you for free. You can upgrade later. We're not going to do any of that because we don't need this to be, modify the bot. Although a printed printer is the easiest thing to modify because it's all printed parts. So yes, you can take these short little bars and give yourself longer throw with them. And it'll just take a belt and longer bars. So it'll be very easy to make different sizes of these. But this is just the basic plan. It's really refreshing for me I've been in design mode for the last few days, and it's refreshing to not have to go out into a machine shop and cut something on the water jet to get a prototype. It goes much faster that way. And that's the power that you all have that are 3D printing. But also, instead of thinking about, profit margin and is this part beautiful? Is this something that I want to own? I am trying to do aesthetic things, like I didn't have to make this bar end the same size. It could have been smaller, but it just looks cool a little bigger. So yeah, I'm wasting a little bit of plastic here, but to be freed from the constraints of marketability, this is something that a kid's going to use to learn a new skill, and so it can be very utilitarian. And so I'm not worrying about these beautiful covers. You guys will come up with ways to decorate your bots and to maybe improve them. To use this on the Z instead of a very short 4-inch throw like here. This will be upgradable, but you got to start somewhere. So this will kind of be the seed to get going, and then we can change later if you want. So anyway, that's the Y, and so without that plate in front, it's very rigid too. It always amazes me how strong printed plastic and a bit of metal can be, but very, very, very minimal. This is the weird thing I'm trying. I was almost embarrassed to show you, but I decided, you know what, it's not a bad idea. And so I'm going to go with it. And if you don't like it, you can change it. But check this out. This is actually the Y is situated here. So I'm just going to do this on the table. So, imagine the Y. It has the extruder. It's going to be here. So the Y can be above the X bars, even though those are vertical, stacked vertically. It works out perfectly for this to be over these bars. And I had room under here to use, and so I thought, I wonder if I could do that. Because the bottom, I keep grabbing this, the bottom plate here, while very strong, it is large. And it's heavy, and it's hard to make because you gotta have a water jet or something like that. So I wanted to do something that has a very, very, very small footprint. And we can always put legs out to hold it. But the footprint here, if I were to put a base underneath it, it would have to, come out way forward to get our bearings and rods out here like you've seen all the other printers I've done in this style. But to reach out here means a lot of plastic. So by pulling it back to where they're stacked above one another, keeps it very close to the rest of the motors that are going to be stacked right around that center area. And you use less plastic, and you can print this. The goal is to be able to print this entire bot on one of these little printers. So it's kind of fun that underneath, look, Ma, no hands or whatever, this will be floating. This will be floating above the table about that height and moving around. Now, how is that going to keep flat? Because we're just pinching it back here, kind of like you would pinch work in a CNC. There's these little thumb screws here, so you could just take that out. This could even be a flexible plate, acrylic, it could be glass. You'd have to use a micro switch instead of a sensor, or put something on it that will have metal in it. So that can come off. It could be a flexible build plate, but it just screws in there, and by the way, makes it a lot shorter so that you can put it in your backpack. So I think this is going to be a neat little tiny printer to get started with, and easier to, oh, my thumb screw or my wing nut fell off. So it'll be easier to transport. So anyway, that's the X stage and the Y stage. I'm just getting ready to print out the Z and mount the extruder, because we gotta change that part to hold the extruder. So anyway, it's real, it's happening. Hopefully you'll see it tomorrow if you want to follow. So that's it. Any questions?
Yeah, we got time.
If the camera dies, it's been great. We'll see you later. What happened to last week's show? Thanks for using my Smalls feet on the bot in the background. Yeah. Where is it?
I think.
Here they are. Check it out. He designed these Smalls feet because one of my people were most critical of me on these feet on the bottom. So check out. This is on probably Thingiverse, and you imagine.
Jonathan Krause.
Jonathan Krause. He made some very cool feet. Last week I was both moving all kinds of stuff around in my shop, and oh, that one has a screw in the way. That must be the other color.
No, they're all the same.
They are?
Yeah.
Okay.
They are different colors.
Anyway, I got 3 orange ones. Boom. Gives it a little bit of a wider stance, and you can slide it around and not have to have that rubber pop out and curse my name. So anyway, we were gone because I was beat. I was moving stuff. I had a terrible schedule last week, and it just slid on by, and I just said, forget it, we can't do it. But anyway, you bet. Cool feet. I like them. What else we got? Does the heat plate 6x6 fit all print beds? Can't get the whole pattern to line up. Do I need to buy the full upgrade instead? So I assume that he's talking about a simple, or
yeah, in this case.
so that 6x6 heat bed, does it fit all models? Well, no, the screw holes don't line up. If you go back far enough, they won't line up because we made a different heat bed that had slightly different holes, not because we didn't mean to do that, but it happened. So you have to affix that to the bed in some manner. You can drill new holes in that metal. Don't be scared. It's just aluminum. So you could drill new holes and tap them. You could, and that stuff's available at Lowe's, by the way. Just make sure you get the right size drill bit. The other upgrade, I'm sure if it's for sale in our store, it works with our current heat bed. Is there a way to distinguish which one you have? The old ones were like red. Did we do green 6x6 for a while, or are they green now?
They're black now.
Black? Yeah, they're black.
I can't remember if we did green 6x6.
I need a decoder ring for all the changes and color changes we made. But anyway, so sorry about those holes not lining up. If you don't do this, don't drill the PCB. Drill the metal if you want it to fit. And what's there to lose? Because if you bought a part from us that has the right holes, you're going to throw that old bed away anyway. So dig in, mark the holes, get the PCB out of the way, and drill those suckers. And if you fail, just order a new bed that has the right holes. And it's fine to put another PCB on our Printrbot. We won't support it, But there's all kinds of heat beds out there. Some people use silicone heat beds. You got to fix them to the bed somehow. I wouldn't recommend, most glue will get hot and degrade and it'll fall off. So anyway, but yeah, don't be afraid to hack your bot. What else? I want to come to the shop and meet you and the crew. I love what you are doing there. I'm an optimal? Maybe optical. I could have mistyped that. Oh, he was retyping. Anyway, he's an engineer working in Roseville. You had me at engineer working in Roseville. I've had people, I had one guy come to, let me back up even further. First of all, when you ask, can I come to the shop? Usually I say no immediately and leave it at that for a lot of reasons. Number one, it's a mess out there right now because we're reorganizing. And two, it'll often, if you come during business hours, it's going to cost us money. So that's kind of a bummer because I have to stop. I get chatty and I'll spend all kinds of time with you and it's like, it hurts my workday. So I always like a heads up. And you can make an appointment with me. But I've had people come for long ways uninvited. And when I say I didn't make an, like for instance, salesman, no, I don't have time for you. I'm doing, this is my livelihood. We're doing work. They get really bent out of shape and they tell me, well, I drove from San Francisco up here. But I didn't ask you to. But a guy in Roseville, that's like down the street. And an engineer, I like those guys and girls, women. I'm sure I'm not being very PC. But anyway, so yeah, if you would just email me, you can find my email. Email me at my personal email. It's Brooke at Printrbot.com. It's not rocket science. And we can set up a time for you to come by when everybody's gone and I can waste my own time. But cool, yeah, if you want to meet the other people here, you would have to come maybe at the end of work hour or something like that. But I'm open to people visiting. You just got to give me a heads up and understand that I'm just like everybody else. Sometimes I'm in a really bad mood. Sometimes I'm a mess. Sometimes I haven't shaved in like 4 days and I look terrible. Sometimes I have like cuts all over. Anyway, I'm a mess half the time. So yeah, it's a good possibility you'll be able to hook up. Assembled smalls, still available, Dave?
We took that out earlier this week.
Yeah, we took that. We're building some right now, but it's so funny. Every time I take something out of the store, because I'm like lightning, if it's not selling and I find out about it, can it? I've got enough failures behind me already as far as like financial successes, selling a lot of a bot. I am quick to kill a product if it just doesn't sell. That's business 101. Don't try to sell stuff that does not make you money. And I didn't mean to sound condescending there. It's just I've done it so much, I'm yelling at myself. But that assembled, I think the smalls is really enjoyed as a kit primarily. And I think that's going to be the appeal of this bot. And quite frankly, I am, man, I'm getting long-winded. I can talk, Dave. This is going to take some of our sales from the smalls because if you have a printer, you can print one of these and it's going to have very similar capabilities to the smalls for less money. It won't be as rigid, it won't be as strong, it won't be throw in your bag and on the airplane and go to another town. Well, it might be that. But yeah, the smalls is just a kit now because I took the assembled out. I left the LE in as an assembled bot. We had Berkeley has a program of either architects, was it the architect program? Or design, some sort of design class, and they all ordered smalls LEs. So we just did a big run of, I mean big, we did a bunch of LEs and Berkeley has them. So that is assembled. The LE is assembled. It's $500, so it's more than the smalls. But if you're gonna have a smalls, you're gonna have a kit. And is the bare bones in there anymore? I don't think we sold any of those either. I have these great ideas. They're great ideas in my head. And then they get out in the oxygen and they die. So I don't know if we have bare bones.
That one is, I think we took the rolling chassis out.
Oh, the rolling chassis I thought was going to be awesome. Negative. Anyway, I don't know. But if it's not in the store, there's a reason. I took it out on the sale for the weekend, the smalls, all of them, because the margins are so thin on this. I'm not really making any money. And if I give you 15% off of this, I'm just giving you money. So I took that out for the weekend, but it is back in as a kit right now. Okay? What else? Any updates on the dual extrusion project? No, I've totally, well, it's right here, but it's exactly where you saw it a month ago. I apologize. Take on too many projects. But no, haven't done anything. When will F6 micro USB be back in stock? I was just looking at that. We do runs of both the, did that say micro USB be back in stock? We have some of those. It's in stock. If you meant the USB-B, those are low. Are they sold out? I don't know.
They shouldn't be.
There's still some here. So anyway, we're balancing, do people want the USB-B? Because, you know, you got to take like a Dremel to your bot to make it fit. But by the way, I do recommend you doing that, taking a Dremel to your bot. No, using that USB-B as a replacement, because if you're snapping off that, if you know, when the USB was on the side, I don't know what idiot designed that, and you bend it over to look underneath, you just snapped off your USB cable. Or if you yank it, or it catches or something, those micro USBs, you know, they're not as strong as a USB-B physically. So kind of wish I would have gone USB-B from the beginning, but I didn't. Thanks, Lane. Anyway, he talked me into the micro. When will Adopt-A-Bot Phase 2 ship out? That's a very good question as well. Since this was waiting, Phase 2, is that what we're talking about here? These guys. Yeah, the Phase 2 are going to be these sans printed parts. And so this being done tomorrow, we will ship next week. And I know you're tired of hearing me say, oh, it's shipping. No, next week. So, like I said, we're already partially done with the prep work. I told you a couple of weeks ago, because we had volunteers come down and get us ahead. So we have hot ends, motors. What we lack is wires and these metal beds, which are a different size than that. So we got to cut our metal beds, which we can start tomorrow. Cutting those, it should take a day, and then we'll ship them next week. So that's, and please accept my apologies for being so late on that. It is, you know, I always feel bad when we're late, when we give an expectation and I don't meet that expectation. I have to tell you, I don't feel quite as bad on this one, because the investment was $40 and it's good-hearted people doing a good thing. There'll be work involved once it arrives, and I've just kind of allowed myself to not feel too bad about it, because it is in the right order for the business, you know. I just need to stop overcommitting. So anyway. So yeah, you'll be able to make one of these things come next week when you get your package of all the parts, and you should be able to print before it even arrives, I would think, if you want to print this weekend. So when will the Adopt-A-Bot, oh, I just said that. 10% battery on your phone. That means goodbye, people. So thank you. Printrbot.com, go buy something if you want to, or just wait for me to release these files, start printing. I will see you next week. Have a great weekend, and glad you're back after I was gone last week. So see you later. Happy printing.